Welcome back to the channel, and coverage moves to Boeing's woes with the 737 MAX, which there's no real other way to put it than are continuing, as the manufacturer reports slips in its monthly output of the very popular narrow-body series. Following a door blowout incident at the top of the calendar year, Boeing has faced difficulty after difficulty. It has basically been like Groundhog Day. And while I know a lot of focus has been on the last 3 months, if we stretch it as far as the, say, beginning point of 2019, it has felt like a reoccurring theme. Time and time again, these difficulties have interrupted Boeing and its planned goals that it hopes to achieve. Additionally, at least this year, the manufacturer has faced persistent inquiries from the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, your key airline customers, and many others, about basically how persistent quality issues are continuing to occur, and more importantly, with no remedy. As a result of this, we know Boeing has been barred from increasing production on the MAX, at least until it can prove to the FAA that it has a solid plan in place to turn around its fortunes. The firm belief is that if there was any increase in production, this would jeopardize Boeing's focus on rebuilding as a company and emerging more positively in the long term. Essentially, their focus would move from trying to figure things out to once more focusing on how to get these planes out as quick as possible, not necessarily as safe. The thing is though, even if Boeing did want to increase production, which remember it did at the beginning of this year, there are very valid concerns that the company wouldn't actually be able to do so, period, with production rates continuing to fall per new reports by Reuters. These new reports by the leading publication highlights that Boeing's production rates have sharply fallen in recent weeks, as generally a greater focus has been placed on inspecting assembly lines. This is where your planes are assembled, and if they're being watched carefully, potentially being told to do certain things, the output is certainly going to be nowhere near what it should optimally be. And even then, I don't think you can necessarily say the past 3 months of an output could be considered optimal to begin with. At its current rate, Boeing can only nearly produce 40 MAX jets at a complete maximum per month. However, industry sources report that these figures were as low as single digits in the final weeks of March. Don't get me wrong, if you've been keeping up with the channel and just generally the aviation industry, the rate of production dropping so significantly is not necessarily fresh news, but dropping to this such small figure is the fresh development. We know Boeing has been struggling to meet goals, but certainly not to this extent. While the production drop-offs are, yes, bad for the American plane maker, as it impacts their day-to-day operations and causes the backlog to continue being pushed out, their customers are the ones that are really feeling the knock-on effect. Airlines worldwide are now unable to welcome the aircraft they require on time. And while delays can stretch weeks, these are now more often than not extending towards months, and in some cases, years. The ramifications, as you can probably imagine, are considerable. Boeing, however, believes that despite these drops, its focus must remain on building confidence back with key customers and eliminating persistent quality issues that have slipped through quality control and obviously caused this mess to occur. And they aren't necessarily wrong there, it's just no doubt frustrating on all angles that you have to see this slip to hopefully move forward in a positive direction. Ideally, none of this would have happened. But hey, I'm talking about an ideal world that doesn't exist. Several analysts close to Boeing have more often than not formed the opinion that Boeing has never been put under so much pressure to rectify its wrongdoings, and as I like to focus on, and as perfectly described by Emirates President Tim Clark, they're on their last chance. So they need to get this right. There's no margin for error. We can't say in 12 months' time, see something happen once more. Not just for the safety of those that could be aboard the aircraft, but for Boeing as a company, and especially as an aircraft manufacturer. You have to think that after everything that's happened in the past 5 years, this certainly is one of the last nails in the coffin. They can't afford anything else going wrong, so they must get this right. In relation to deliveries being delayed, I did want to mention that I know a lot of focus always gets put on Boeing. It seems to be Boeing, 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 and don't get me wrong, there's a reason behind that. But they certainly aren't the only manufacturer that is seeing aircraft delayed. Take a look at counterpart Airbus. They're experiencing similar, but just not for the same reasons and certainly not to the same extent. So maybe that flies a little bit more under the radar given what's happening at Boeing, but remember, it is still a widespread industry problem. Just worse for Boeing. That's going to conclude today's proceedings. If you've got any thoughts on Boeing's production rate significantly dropping for the MAX, let me know. Is this a trend that's going to continue? And how do you foresee the impact on customers in the long term as they can't acquire their aircraft on time and it continues getting pushed back, and pushed back some more? Thanks a lot for watching. Take care, and I'll see you same place, same time tomorrow. And we'll fly.